Returning to our top story, and despite growing calls for a ceasefire, Israel has vowed to ramp up fighting inside Gaza until Hamas is removed from power. Joining me live is Ian Parmeter, research scholar at the Centre for Arab and Islamic Studies at the Australian National University. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. The UN Security Council resolution on Gaza, as you know, passed yesterday morning our time. It's been criticised by UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres and several countries and aid agencies for failing to call for a ceasefire. The United States in particular has been criticised for watering down the resolution. Do you think this criticism is justified?
Well, I think there certainly is a case to be made for that. The resolution itself, the United States was determined to protect Israel's interests at the UN Security Council, and Israel did not want to be forced into a ceasefire, which would, of course, interrupt its campaign of military action against Hamas. Israel believes that the military action will actually force Hamas to make concessions, whereas Hamas has made clear that it will not make any more hostage releases until the military campaign stops. So we've got a major standoff there. But the United States seems to be giving mixed messages. We've had a number of reports in the American press which indicate that the United States is putting a lot of pressure on Israel privately to cease the indiscriminate bombing, which appears to be happening and which President Biden has called indiscriminate. But at the same time, in public, in the UN Security Council, it is defending Israel's interests very, very strongly. What it really means is that the UN is not really able to play much of a role in trying to resolve this difficulty. One positive thing that came out of the Security Council resolution, though, was that it did give an impetus to more aid going in to Gaza. But a problem is that Israel still insists on inspecting all the aid deliveries, and that really means that they are delayed in the process of going in. Israel's reason for wanting to inspect the aid deliveries, of course, is that it suspects that the weapons may be smuggled in with aid. So there are a lot of different forces in play here.
There certainly are, and Russia, like the US, abstained on the resolution. Ian, what is Russia's motive here, do you think?
Well, I think Russia's getting a lot from all of this. It's able to accuse the United States of double standards compared with the United States' vociferous criticism of Russia's campaign in Ukraine, and very mild criticism of what Israel is doing in Gaza. And Russia also wants to build up its constituency in the global south, which, as we saw with the United Nations General Assembly resolution a week or so ago, is very strong. 150 out of 190 countries voted for a ceasefire. So Russia sees that it's on the side of the majority in the General Assembly at this stage. But it actually decided to abstain to make the point that the resolution itself, as it said, is toothless. It doesn't actually have any way of enforcing any sort of slowdown in the hostilities. And Israel has made clear that it's going to continue the campaign in exactly the way that it feels is necessary to defeat Hamas. So Russia is gaining quite a lot from all of this, and will be quite happy for its own purposes to see all of this continue for a while, because it relishes embarrassing the United States.
And we certainly have spoken about the resolution calling for urgent steps to create the conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities. What is that likely to mean in practice?
Well, it could mean almost anything. That's the difficulty. It is just simply saying, create the conditions. Russia has said it means that, from Israel's perspective, Israel's bombing creates the conditions for a ceasefire. So it really is a very strange form of words, which was devised simply to avoid the US veto. If it had called for a ceasefire, as the original or one of the original drafts did, the United States would have vetoed it. And the Security Council didn't want to have another veto. I think it really is indicative of the powerlessness of the Security Council at this point, when you consider that this war has been going now since really the 7th of October. And only now, on Friday, have we seen a Security Council resolution passed. So it's not a good look for the Security Council at all. And this does create conditions could mean almost anything. That's the difficulty that anyone trying to implement it might have.
And Ian, what do we know about the situation of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas?
Well, we as far as we're aware, they're still alive, or most of them are. There is still believed to be about 130 hostages that are hidden inside Gaza. We assume that they are deep inside the tunnel network that Hamas has constructed, but where exactly they might be, we obviously the Israelis don't know, and we don't know. Unfortunately for Israel, it has been able to release only one hostage through the actions to try to find them. And when Hamas is determined to hide hostages, it seems to be, unfortunately, very, very successful in doing so. Clearly, there's a very strong movement within Israel for Israel to prioritize the freeing of hostages, but we'll simply have to wait and see how that goes. We do know that the Israeli negotiator with Qatar, who is actually the Mossad head, David Barnea, has been talking with the Prime Minister of Qatar, so we may see more negotiations for hostage releases. Obviously, we can only hope that that's the case, but we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But at this stage, we've had no movement, and Hamas is saying, at least in public, that it won't even consider releasing more hostages until the bombing campaign by Israel stops.
And just finally, we talk about eradicating Hamas. How hard is it to destroy an ideology, and is this looking increasingly harder or easier?
I think it's looking increasingly harder. The reason I say this is that opinion polls have shown that in the West Bank, which is really under the nominal control of the secular Palestinian organization Fatah through the Palestinian Authority, in the West Bank, the support for Hamas has grown considerably. An opinion poll that I saw conducted there just at the start of this month showed that over the course of the military campaign that had grown from 12% to 44%. That's still less than the majority, but it's a significant growth. And you'll have noticed that when there have been releases of Israeli prisoners in the West Bank, that there have been a lot of people greeting them, a lot of Palestinians greeting them with green flags, and they are the Hamas flags. And they are making a public statement that they thank Hamas for their release of these Israeli prisoners. So it's not at all clear that a campaign to try to destroy Hamas militarily is going to have the effect that the Israelis and obviously we all would want, that a terrorist organization is put down and discouraged. In fact, it could have the opposite effect. It could actually create the conditions for growth of support for Hamas among the Palestinians.
Ian Parmeter, always good to see you, and thank you so much for your time and expertise today.
You're welcome.